The sky was still gray when the morning call for breakfast echoed through the house. It used to be a home filled with laughter, tiny footsteps, and the sweet voice of a mother telling stories. But lately, it had become a place of silence, tension, and fear. Ever since their father's second marriage, 12-year-old Ayan sensed it first. The coldness, the distance, the strange looks from the woman who was now called stepmother. 8-year-old Hani clung to their mother's dress every morning, afraid that something would go wrong. And baby Sarah, who was only 3, could not understand anything, but she could feel the sadness in the air. Their mother, Zara, tried every day to hide her tears. She worked quietly, cooked, cleaned, washed dishes, and took care of her children. She wanted to protect them from everything happening around them. But a storm was coming, and she could feel it. One evening, their father returned home late. His scent no longer smelled like home, it smelled like perfume, expensive coffee, and conversations that didn't include his children anymore. Zara approached him gently. "Are you okay? You didn't answer my calls." He didn't look at her. "I was busy," he replied sharply. Ayan watched from behind the doorway. There was something in his father's voice, something he had never heard before, something cold. Then the stepmother walked in. Her eyes fell on Zara and narrowed. "Why is she asking you so many questions? Control your wife." Zara stepped back as though she had been slapped. Ayan's heart sank. Hani gripped her mother's hand tighter. Their father didn't defend them. He didn't defend any of them. Over the next few weeks, the stepmother's cruelty grew like a thorny vine spreading through the house. She hid food. She threw away the children's clothes. She shouted at Zara for the smallest mistake. She told the children to stay in their room when their father was home. Worst of all, she tried to turn their father against them, and slowly, painfully, she succeeded. Their father stopped smiling at them, stopped talking, stopped caring. Ayan realized something heartbreaking. They still had a father, but they were already fatherless. Tea happened on a stormy night. Rain crashed against the windows, thunder shook the sky, and the children huddled together like frightened birds. Zara covered them with blankets and whispered prayers. Then came a loud knock on the door. Not a knock, a bang. Their father stood there, eyes red, voice shaking with anger, and behind him, the stepmother smirking. "You all need to leave," he said. Zara froze. The children froze. The world froze. What do you mean?" Zara whispered. "Where will we go? These are your children. My second wife doesn't feel comfortable with you all here," he snapped. "This house is hers now." Ayan felt his stomach twist. Hani started crying. Baby Sarah clung to her mother with tiny trembling fingers. Their father pointed to the door. "I want you out tonight." Lightning flashed outside. Zara collapsed to her knees. "Please, they are small. It's raining. At least let the children stay." "No," the stepmother shouted. "All of them leave." Now and then, she walked forward. She grabbed the door. She slammed it open. And with the coldest voice they had ever heard, she said, "Get out." Zara had nothing but a small bag of clothes, a few hundred rupees, and her children. She held baby Sarah on her hip. She held Hani's hand. Ayan walked close behind her, trying to be strong even though his heart was breaking. Rain drenched them instantly. Behind them, the door slammed shut. The stepmother had closed the door on their lives. But what she didn't know, what no one knew, was that this moment, this painful, heartbreaking moment, would awaken a strength inside Zara that she never knew. She had. She wiped her tears. She looked at her children and she whispered to them, "We will survive. I promise you, I will not let this world defeat us." Ayan believed her. Hani trusted her. Sarah laid her head on her mother's shoulder and slept. They had lost their home. They had lost their father, but they had each other. And sometimes, that's where miracles begin. Rain poured from the sky as if heaven itself was crying for them. The streets were empty. The wind howled through narrow alleys, and the shadows of the night stretched long and frightening. Zara held her children close as she walked with trembling steps, her soaked shawl clinging to her like a second skin. Ayan kept glancing back at the house, the place where he had learned to walk, where he had learned to laugh. Now, it wasn't home. It was just a locked door behind which stood a stepmother's cruelty and a father's silence. But the world doesn't stop for broken hearts, and neither could Zara. "Stay close," Zara whispered as they stepped into the muddy street. "I'm here, Ami," he replied, trying to sound brave, even though every drop of rain felt like a needle against his small body. Little Hani was shivering so hard that her teeth clicked. Zara removed her wet shawl and wrapped it around her daughters, leaving herself exposed to the cold. Baby Sarah whimpered softly in her arms. "We'll find shelter soon," Zara murmured, kissing Sarah's forehead. "Just hold on, my angels." But she herself didn't know where they would go. Her parents had passed away years ago. Her sisters were married and struggling with their own families. There was no friend she could trust, no relative who wouldn't misunderstand. For the first time in her life, Zara felt truly alone. After nearly an hour of walking in the storm, Ayan's legs began to ache. Hani cried silently. Sarah was completely soaked. Zara's heart shattered at the sight of her children suffering. Finally, she saw a small general store whose lights were still on. She rushed to it. The shopkeeper, an older man with silver hair and gentle eyes, looked up in shock when he saw them. "Zara, What happened to you? It's midnight. She swallowed her tears. We were forced out of our home. The shopkeeper stared at the three drenched children. His expression changed from surprise to sorrow. Without another word, he brought out a large cloth and wrapped it around them. He gave the children warm milk. He let them sit inside the shop, away from the rain. Zara wanted to fall to her knees and cry. Allah will help you, Betty, the old man said softly. But you must be strong. Zara nodded, wiping her eyes. I have to be, she whispered. For them, the shopkeeper allowed Zara and the kids to spend the night inside his storage room where sacks of rice were stacked high. He placed a mat on the floor and said, let the children sleep here. You can rest too. But how could a mother sleep when her whole world was falling apart? Ayan fell asleep beside his sisters, curled protectively around them. Zara sat in the corner of the room, hugging her knees, staring at her children. Their tiny chests rose and fell with each breath. Their wet hair clung to their faces. Their little hands were still trembling from the cold. Tears streamed down Zara's face. I failed them, she whispered to herself. I couldn't stop him. I couldn't protect them. But then she looked at her children again. No, she corrected herself softly. I didn't fail. He failed them. And now, I will become both mother and father. She reached out and gently stroked Ayan's hair. I promise, my son, you will never feel abandoned again. When dawn came, the rain had eased, but the pain hadn't. The shopkeeper offered them food, but Zara refused to take money or stay longer. You've already helped us more than anyone, she said respectfully. He nodded, understanding her dignity. As they stepped outside, Ayan asked softly, where will we go now, Ami? She smiled, though her eyes were tired. Wherever Allah takes us, my son, but wherever we go, we will go together. Hani squeezed her mother's hand. Ami, I'm scared. Zara knelt and kissed her forehead. You don't need to be scared. As long as I'm here, nothing will hurt you. But inside, Zara was terrified. How would she feed them? Where would they sleep? How long could she keep walking? Where would she find work? Where would she find hope? Zara walked door to door asking for work. Some people shut the door in her face. Some told her to come later. Some looked at her with pity. Some didn't believe her story. A few offered charity, but Zara wanted dignity, not sympathy. I just need work, she repeated. I can cook, clean, wash, sew anything. But no one wanted a woman with 3 children. Hours passed. The sun rose high. The children grew tired again. Ayan tried not to complain, but his feet were blistered. Hani was hungry. Baby Sarah was crying non-stop. Zara felt herself crumbling. Ya Allah, help me, she whispered. And then something unexpected happened. A young woman who overheard Zara's conversation at a tailor shop approached her. Excuse me, she said gently. I heard you're looking for work. My aunt needs a helper, and she has a spare room you and your children can stay in. Zara felt her knees weaken. Really, she would let us stay? Yes, the young woman smiled. My aunt is strict, but she's kind. Come with me. It wasn't a house. It wasn't comfort. It wasn't a palace, but it was safety. The room was small, barely big enough for a mattress. The walls were cracked. There was no window, only a small fan. But Zara saw something no one else could see. It was a new beginning. Ayan spread a blanket on the floor. Hani giggled as she explored their tiny new space. Baby Sarah finally stopped crying. Zara sat down, exhausted but relieved. A roof, walls, a floor. A chance. It was enough for now. Zara worked in the aunt's house from dawn till dusk. She washed clothes. She cleaned floors. She cooked meals. She ran errands. She cut vegetables. She ironed clothes. Her hands blistered. Her feet swelled. Her back ached. Her eyes burned from lack of sleep. But every time she thought of giving up, she looked at her children. Their smiles gave her strength. Their tiny hands gave her courage. Their little voices gave her purpose. Ayan helped by looking after his sisters. He learned to warm milk, packed lunches, and comb Sarah's hair. Hani helped fold clothes. Sarah played quietly in a corner. They were not living the life they deserved. What they were living together. Safe, hopeful. One night, after putting the children to sleep, Zara stepped outside, looked at the sky, and breathed deeply. The stars were faint, but they were still shining just like her. She whispered to the silent night, I don't know where life will take us, but I won't stop. I won't break. I will rebuild everything they lost. Her journey was far from over. Harder days were coming. Bigger battles were on the way. More tears would fall, but so would miracles. Because when life closes a door, a mother breaks through walls. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into a month. Life didn't suddenly become easy, but it became bearable. Zara woke up before sunrise every morning. She quietly covered her children with a thin blanket, kissed their foreheads, and stepped out into the cold corridor to begin her work. Every dish she washed, every floor she swept, every piece of clothing she ironed, was a small step toward rebuilding her children's future. But inside, she was still carrying a mountain of pain. A mother can hold the whole world on her shoulders, but she still feels the weight. While Zara worked, 12-year-old Ayan took responsibility far beyond his age. He woke his sisters gently every morning. He tied Hanny's hair into a messy little ponytail. He helped Sarah brush her tiny teeth. He warmed milk exactly the way their mother taught him. He never once complained. One evening, Zara returned from work to see Ayan feeding his sisters bread while telling them a story. Trying to make them laugh, her heart melted. She knelt beside him. "Ayan, you're still a child," she whispered. "You don't have to do everything." He smiled softly. "Ami, I know, but I want to help you. I want you to rest." Zara hugged him tightly, fighting back tears. Sometimes children grow up too fast because life gives them no other choice. The aunt, who had taken Zara in, was strict. She expected work done perfectly. She didn't like mistakes. She rarely smiled, but she watched Zara silently. She saw the bruises on her arms from heavy buckets. She saw the swelling in her hands from washing clothes. She saw her skip meals so her children could eat. She saw Ayan helping like a little father, and one day, something inside the aunt shifted. She called Zara into the kitchen. "You work hard," she said abruptly. Zara lowered her eyes. "I try my best." The aunt paused. Then, in a softer voice, "You're a good mother." Zara's eyes filled instantly. No one had said those words to her in months. From that day, the aunt began leaving extra food for the children. She allowed them to play in the courtyard. She even bought small notebooks for Ayan and Hanny. It wasn't charity. It was respect, something Zara had earned with her tears and strength. One afternoon, while washing clothes in the backyard, Zara heard a familiar voice, a voice that made her blood run cold. Her husband's sister. She recognized the harsh tone before even turning around. "So this is where you ended up," the sister sneered. "Working as a maid." Zara clenched her jaw. She didn't respond. "You should have expected it," the woman continued. "When a husband remarries, the first wife has no place in the home." Zara's heart cracked, but she stayed calm. "You don't know what happened," she whispered. "I know enough." The sister scoffed. "Your own husband didn't want you. That says everything." A tear slipped down Zara's cheek. Ayan, who had been in the courtyard, overheard everything. He rushed to his mother's side, standing protectively between her and the woman. "Don't talk to my Ami like that," he said, voice shaking but brave. The sister laughed cruelly. "Look at him. His father didn't want him either." Ayan's face fell. Zara immediately pulled him close. "That's enough," she said firmly, for the first time showing anger. "You don't get to hurt my children." The sister rolled her eyes. "You won't survive long like this." She walked away, but her words lingered like a poison in the air. Ayan looked up at his mother, eyes glassy. "Ami, is she right? Does Abba really not want us?" Zara cupped his face. "Your father lost himself," she whispered. "But you did nothing wrong. You are my pride, my strength, my heart." Ayan buried his face in her shawl and cried. Zara held him until his tears stopped. She wouldn't let the world break her son. Slowly, tiny victories began to bloom in their difficult life. Hanny learned to read her first English words. Ayan helped cook simple meals without burning anything. Sarah began laughing more often, real laughter, not the forced smiles she used to give sometimes. The aunt would hand Zara an extra 100 rupees. "For the children," she'd say, pretending it wasn't a big deal. Zara would always thank her. With a trembling smile, every extra rupee went toward their future. Not a single coin was wasted. One night, while Zara was cleaning the aunt's living room, she heard muffled sobs from their small room. Her heart dropped. She rushed inside to find Ayan sitting on the floor, hugging his knees, crying silently so his sisters wouldn't wake Ayan. "My son, what's wrong?" He wiped his tears quickly. "Nothing, Ami. I'm okay. Our mother always knows," she whispered. Finally he broke. "Ami, I miss Abba," he cried. "I miss how he used to hold me. I miss when he loved us. Why did he change? Why didn't he choose us? Why weren't we enough?" Zara felt her own chest shatter. She didn't want to lie, but she couldn't tell him the cruel truth either. She held his face in her hands. "You were more than enough," she said softly. "You were his world, his pride." But sometimes adults lose their way. They forget the people who love them most. Ayan's voice cracked. "But how could he forget us, Ami?" Zara kissed his forehead. "Because he didn't have a heart as pure as yours." Ayan sobbed, shaking in her arms. She hugged him tightly. "Cry, my son," she whispered. "Cry as much as you need. But remember this, I will never leave you. Not today. Not ever." That night Ayan fell asleep in his mother's arms, exhausted from tears, and Zara stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering how much more her children would have to suffer, and how much stronger she would need to become. Life had improved, but only a little. New hardships, new struggles, and new twists were waiting ahead. The stepmother had closed the door on them, but fate was about to open another, a door that would change everything. Forever. Months passed. The small rented room became their shelter, their comfort, their fragile little world. It wasn't perfect, but it was their home now. Zara cooked on a small stove placed in the corner. The children studied under a dim bulb that flickered whenever the electricity wavered. Sometimes they slept hungry, but they always slept together, and that was enough to keep their hearts warm. But as winter approached, everything changed. The first winter wind hit like a warning. Their room had no heater. The walls were thin. The blanket was shared by all four of them. Nights turned brutal. Baby Sarah curled into Zara's arms to stay warm. Hani shivered so hard her teeth hurt. Ayan wrapped his old sweater around his sisters, instead of himself. Zara used her dupatta to cover all three children and kept her own shoulders exposed to the freezing air one night. Ayan whispered with trembling lips, "Ami, I'm scared winter will hurt us." Zara kissed his forehead. No cold can defeat a mother's warmth, she whispered softly, but inside, she was terrified. Working in freezing water, washing dozens of clothes every day, finally took its toll. Zara woke up one morning feeling dizzy. Her hands shook, her feet were numb. Her voice cracked as she tried to call the children. Ayan ran to her. "Ami, are you okay?" Zara tried to stand, and collapsed onto the floor. Hani started crying. Baby Sarah tugged her mother's sleeve, confused and afraid. Ayan panicked. He rushed outside and knocked on the aunt's door. "Please, auntie, my mother is very sick. Please help." The aunt hurried in. One look at Zara, and her face softened with worry. "She has a high fever," the aunt said. "She needs rest and medicine." But rest wasn't a luxury Zara could afford. When she opened her eyes, she tried to sit up immediately. "I have to work. I can't lose this job." The aunt touched her shoulder gently. "Today you rest. I will manage." Zara's lips trembled with gratitude. For the first time in a long time, someone was helping her, without wanting anything in return. The fever lasted 3 days. 3 long days in which Ayan cooked simple meals, took care of his sisters, and kept checking Zara's temperature every time she opened her eyes. She saw him fanning her with a piece of cardboard. "You should be playing, not doing all this," she whispered weakly. He shook his head. "You're my mother. I will take care of you like you take care of us." Zara's eyes filled with tears. How many children in this world loved so deeply? How many carried burdens far beyond their age? She reached out and held Ayan's face. "You are my strength, my son, not my burden." On the 3rd day, something happened that shook Zara to her core. Their father came. Unexpected, uninvited, unwanted. The aunt had sent word to him, thinking he should know his children were suffering. But the moment he stepped inside the small room, the children froze. Ayan's eyes widened, not with happiness, but with confusion and hurt. Hani hid behind Ayan. Baby Sarah didn't even recognize him. Zara was too weak to sit up. The father looked around awkwardly. "So, you're living here now?" he said coldly. Ayan stepped forward. "This is our home," he said quietly, "and we are happy." The father scoffed. "Happy? In this tiny room?" Zara managed to whisper. "We are safe, and that is enough." He glanced at her, then cleared his throat. "My wife thinks maybe the children could visit sometimes." Ayan's jaw tightened. Hani grabbed his sleeve more tightly. Zara stared at her husband, her eyes burning with quiet pain. "Your wife," she whispered. "The same woman who threw them out, who left them crying in the rain. She wants to see them now." The father didn't reply. Zara looked away. "I won't send my children anywhere they aren't loved." Ayan felt a wave of pride rush through him for the first time. He saw his mother stand firm, strong, fearless, unbroken. The father grew irritated. "You're making them hate me," he snapped. Ayan stepped forward boldly. "No, Abba," he said quietly. "You did that yourself." The father looked shocked. He had no answer, no excuse, no courage to face what he had done. He left in silence. And when the door closed, Zara broke down in tears, not of weakness, but of relief. Her children were hers again, completely, forever. A week later, when Zara recovered, the aunt called her into the living room. Zara stood nervously, thinking she was in trouble. But the aunt held out a small envelope. "This is for you," she said. "A little extra. You've been working very hard." Zara opened it with trembling hands. Her heart skipped a beat. Inside were 5,000 rupees, more money than she had seen in months. "Auntie, this, I can't take this." "You can," the aunt replied firmly. "And you will, to use it for your children. Buy warm clothes. Buy blankets. Winter is hard, but it'll be harder if you don't prepare." Zara's eyes filled with tears. She touched the aunt's hand. "Allah sent you into my life," she whispered. The aunt looked away, pretending not to be emotional. "Go, buy what you need," she said, "before I change my mind." That evening Zara came home with 2 warm sweaters for the girls, 1 jacket for Ayan, 1 small heater for their room, a thick blanket, fresh vegetables and rice, and a tiny chocolate bar for each child. When she handed the chocolates to the children, their eyes sparkled. Baby Sarah clapped. Hani hugged her mother. Ayan placed his chocolate in her hand. "This is for you, Ami," he said. "You deserve it the most." Zara held her 3 children close. For the first time in months, their room felt warm, their hearts felt safe, their lives felt stable. But destiny wasn't done with them yet. There was a new path waiting ahead, a path that would push Zara to her limits and bring a miracle she never imagined. Winter slowly passed. The cold nights softened, the mornings warmed, and the tiny room began to feel less like a shelter and more like a home stitched together with love and pain. But even when seasons change, wounds inside the heart take longer. Zara was healing. The children were smiling again, but life had one more test waiting, a test that would break them. and then rebuild them stronger than ever. One morning Zara noticed something strange. She felt dizzy as she worked. Her vision blurred. Her hands shook more often. At first, she ignored it. A mother always ignores her own pain. But one evening, while washing the last set of dishes, she gripped the edge of the sink to keep herself from falling. Ayan rushed to her army. "Sit down, please." "I'm fine," she whispered, though she wasn't. Hani held her arm, worried. Baby Sarah touched her mother's cheek with tiny fingers. Sensing something was wrong, Zara tried to smile. "I'm just tired. I'll be okay." But her children weren't convinced. The next morning, the aunt saw Zara struggling to carry a heavy bucket. "Put it down," she ordered sharply. Zara froze, thinking she had made a mistake. "Come sit," the aunt said, pointing to a chair. Now Zara hesitated, then sat quietly. The aunt studied her, eyes narrowing. "You're weak. You've lost weight. You're hiding something." Zara lowered her gaze. "I'm just tired." "There's still work." "There is no work," the aunt interrupted firmly. "Not until you see a doctor." Zara's heart sank. "A doctor? I can't afford that." The aunt walked toward her cupboard, pulled out some money, and pressed it into Zara's hand. "You're going," she said firmly. No arguments. Zara's lips trembled with gratitude. Why was this woman helping her so much? The aunt answered without being asked. "You remind me of my sister. She raised her children alone too. I couldn't help her in time, but I can help you." Zara's eyes filled. Sometimes Allah sends angels disguised as people. Ayan accompanied Zara to the clinic, holding her hand, acting like a grown son though he was still a boy. When the doctor checked her health, he frowned. "You're extremely weak," he said gently. "You've overworked yourself. You need strength, rest, vitamins, and proper food." Zara looked down. Rest was a luxury she didn't have. The doctor continued, "If you keep ignoring your health, you might collapse again." Ayan grabbed her hand tightly, his voice breaking. "Ami, please, take care of yourself." Zara nodded slowly. For her children, she would fight. Even if her body was tired, her heart wasn't. A week later, something unexpected happened. A neighbor invited the aunt to a small community gathering. She brought Zara along to help serve tea and food. It was a simple event, nothing special, but among the women sat one lady who kept watching Zara, not with judgment, but with curiosity. After the event, the lady approached her. "You're Zara?" she asked. "Yes," Zara replied nervously. "I've heard about you, the woman who takes care of her children alone, and still works harder than anyone." Zara blushed slightly. "I just do what I have to." The woman smiled warmly. "My name is Mrs. Rayner. I run a small stitching center. I'm looking for women who are hard-working and honest. Someone told me you can sell." Zara nodded slowly. "I used to be before life broke her," Mrs. Rayner continued. "If you join the center, you'll get paid per piece. You can also learn advanced stitching for free. It's safer than housework and pays better." Zara's heart thumped. Better pay, safer work, a skill that could change their future. "Think about it," Mrs. Rayner said, handing her a card. "We start next week." Zara held the card like it was a treasure. For the first time in months, she felt something rise in her chest. Hope. When Zara told the children, Ayan almost shouted from excitement. "Ami, this is great. You won't have to work so much. We'll help you. We'll do everything together." Hani clapped her hands. Baby Sarah giggled. Their little room felt brighter than ever before. Zara watched her children and whispered softly in her heart, "Ya Allah, after so much pain, are you finally opening a door for us?" 2 days before Zara was supposed to join the stitching center, a loud knock came at the door. Zara opened it. Her heart dropped. It was her husband. And behind him, the stepmother. But something was different. Her husband's eyes were anxious. The stepmother looked uncomfortable. Zara whispered, "Take your sisters inside." The children obeyed. Her husband spoke first. "Zara, I need your help." Her hands trembled. "My help? After everything you did?" He lowered his head in shame. "My new wife, she can't take care of the house. And her temper is worse than I thought. The children we had, she isn't treating them well either." Zara stared at them in shock. He continued, "I made a mistake. A big one. I ruined our family. I abandoned you. And now I'm paying for it." Tears gathered in his eyes. "I want to fix things. Please let me see the children again. Just once." Zara's heart twisted painfully. He had broken her. He had broken their children. Now he was asking to enter their lives again. She stepped back slightly. "You didn't just hurt me," she whispered. "You hurt them." The stepmother stepped forward. "Look, I didn't know things would get this difficult. I didn't mean to cause harm." Zara's expression hardened. "You threw them into the cold," she said firmly. "You don't get to say you meant well." The stepmother fell silent. Her husband spoke again, voice shaking. "I just want one chance, one meeting." Zara closed her eyes. This was the hardest decision she had faced in a long time. Her children now had peace. But were they ready to face the man who left them? She didn't want to break their hearts again, but she didn't want hatred to grow inside them either. After a long silence, Zara said, "I will think about it." The door closed and she felt the heaviness of a new storm approaching. That night, when the children slept, Zara sat by the small window, thinking. She wasn't the same weak, frightened woman who had been thrown out months ago. She was stronger, calmer, wiser, she whispered to herself. Whatever decision I make, I will choose what protects my children's hearts. She looked at the small card from Mrs. Rayner, a stitching center. A new job, a new beginning. Her life was about to change, and the story of her struggle was slowly turning into a story of rebirth. The morning sun poured through the small windows, filling their modest home with a golden calm. For the first time in years, life did not feel like a battlefield. It felt like piece a piece they had built with their own tears, prayers, and strength. Ion stood outside, helping a young student learn English. Hanny helped their mother prepare breakfast, humming softly, and little Sarah, now bigger, drew pictures of their family with bright colors and a shining sun above them. Their home was small, but it was safe. Their life was simple, but it was theirs, and their hearts finally felt light. One quiet afternoon, someone knocked on the door. Zara opened it and froze. Standing outside was the man who had once been her husband. His face looked older, tired, and full of regret. He lowered his eyes when he saw his children, now stronger, taller, and far happier than when he last saw them. Hanny, Sarah, he whispered. But the children did not run to him. He looked at Zara with trembling lips. I made mistakes, he said. My second wife left. I'm alone now. I shouldn't have thrown you out. I shouldn't have believed. Zara didn't let him finish. She spoke calmly, without hatred, without anger, just clarity. You didn't throw only me out. You threw out your children, and they cried for you for months. You didn't come. Her words were not sharp. They were true. Her former husband lowered his head in shame. Tears fell onto the dusty ground beneath him. Ion stepped forward, not with hate, but with maturity beyond his years. Father, he said softly, we don't wish bad for you, but our home, our peace, we built it without you. There was no revenge in his voice, just truth. The man nodded, realizing something painful yet important. He had lost his family, not because they wanted to leave, but because he had pushed them away. He whispered, "May God protect you," and left quietly, and for the first time, his departure did not leave behind pain, only closure. Months passed. Zara's small sewing business grew fast. People respected her dedication, her honesty, and the warmth she brought into every home she worked for. She was no longer the woman who cried silently in the dark. She was strong, confident, and standing tall. One evening, she sat with her children on the rooftop as the cool breeze wrapped around them. Hanny rested her head on her mother's shoulder. Sarah hugged her from behind. Ian sat beside her, watching the sky turn orange. Hanny whispered, will our life stay peaceful now? Zara smiled gently. We faced darkness, but we walked out of it together. As long as we have each other, we will always find light. The children smiled. For the first time, they believed it fully. Ian received a scholarship for higher education. Hanny became the top student in her class. Sarah turned into a joyful, confident girl who loved to draw and dream big. Their home became a symbol in their neighborhood, a reminder of how a mother's courage can build an entire world. People often said they lost a home, but found a life. They were pushed out, but they rose higher. A mother without support. It became a hero for her children. One night, as they sat together after dinner, Ion said something that made Zara's eyes fill with tears, not of pain, but of pride. The door that closed on us was not the end. It was the beginning of everything good that came after. Zara gently kissed her son's forehead. Then she wrapped her arms around all three of her children, the only treasures she ever needed, and whispered, we survived because we stayed together, and we succeeded because we never stopped believing in hope. The room grew quiet. The night grew peaceful, and their hearts glowed with a warmth that no cruelty could ever steal again.